This workshop, as you have heard, is designed to support congregations and communities moving into the next steps of what they might do next. And I'll share a quick story of no, I'll share it during the time, but I'm going to share my screen and move through some slides. And Martha will be sharing prayer practice with us and doing some discernment. During this time, just to note that a lot of this, what we're sharing, is available on our website, and it's designed for you to be able to share this same workshop with your own green team or creation care team or homeowners association or whatever that might look like. And then we can also provide something like that for you as well in your congregation. So all the resources that we're going to share are available, and hope that you'll be able to use those. Also, if you have pen and paper, it might be helpful for you to have that available to you. So feel free to jump up and grab that. There's a couple of things that we'll ask you to jot down, some ideas and brainstorming as you're, some of you will have a real life congregation that you're thinking about. And so we want to be able to make this as fruitful as possible for you in the midst of it. So I'm going to try to share our screen. I'm glad that you guys made it here, and we'll see how this all works out. And Martha, I'll just click through the things that you need me to click through. All right. I need to push the present button. Does everyone see that?
Yeah.
Creation Care Alliance Guide, Discernment Workshop. Great. Welcome. Just a little bit about Creation Care Alliance. We are a group of faith communities that are in the western part of the state, and we have about 70 congregations that we've touched or connected with, and we'll add some from the experiences of this weekend. Some of them are within the Christian traditions and others are not, and so we're excited to be an interfaith organization, but we primarily work with Christian traditions. That's the ones that tend to that we're connected to. We also have 2 counties in Georgia that we're exploring how we might support them as well in the Hiwassee watershed. And so we're excited to be working in that part of the world as well. We and you all have helped develop this guide to creation care. And we found that whether you're at the beginning of this work or have been doing it for 10 or 15 years, that at some point there's the challenge of what do we do next, because there's so many ways to engage in this work. And so this is designed to be both kind of a prayer practice as well as a way of moving forward, an active kind of action-oriented practice. Martha is going to share with us a way of connecting with God. And Martha, take it away.
Thank you, Scott. Hi, everybody. It's wonderful to be here with you today. And I'm going to be leading us through a couple of practices. One which is going to help us to locate where we are and what inspires us to do this work of creation care, and the other which helps us to locate ourselves more in this work in our communities. So I just encourage you that allowing yourselves to participate in these practices is going to help to equip you as you bring this work out to others. And I want to make sure that I'm got my timer going here so that we're staying within our time frame. So we're going to take a moment to get ourselves grounded where we are this morning and to engage with a practice which is designed to help people connect with what inspires them to do creation care work. and also to find common ground with others who are also inspired to do this work. So I'm going to ask you to please, if you would, mute your mics and get comfortable. If it helps you to feel centered and undistracted, please feel free to turn off your video. Take a moment just to sort of find your seat. It's best if you could have your feet on the floor just so that you have a sense of grounding. And to close your eyes if that helps you, and to take some breaths as you ground and center yourself for this practice. And if we just take a moment and look at this photograph of awe that's in front of us, in the shared screen, we can see that it's a moment that the person behind the photograph was experiencing, a moment of awe and inspiration that moved that person to capture that moment. We all have moments like this in our lives, and they're captured in our memories. They're moments that we've experienced a connection with nature, a connection with the magnificence of God's creation, and a sense of God in creation. They're our awe moments. And so I would like you to engage a memory of such a moment in your life when you felt a connection with nature and creation and God. And just take a moment to bring this into your memory and to immerse yourself in that memory. So as you become immersed in this memory, I would like you to become aware of where you are, to look around you, to notice where you are, to become aware of the sounds that are around you. To be aware of the smells, the fragrances of the place where you are. Where the light is or is not, how it falls, how it feels. The way the ground feels beneath you, whether you're beneath your feet or you're lying down or you're sitting, you're standing, wherever you're placed with the ground, and how that feels. The temperature of the air around you, what the season is. Is it cold? Is it warm? Is there a breeze? And are you sharing this space with others? Are you alone in it? Are there others, people, animals, life? So just engaging all of these senses and this awareness, just take this moment to be immersed in this memory. And now I'm going to ask you to move from that memory back into the place where you are now. And when you're ready, to turn back on your video and just to bring your attention back to the room. And as a group, we have the opportunity to just sort of to share some about what this experience has been like for you to be in that memory again, that awe moment for you. And we have a couple of options. You can use the chat function at the bottom of your screen if you want to just put in some comments there, or you can, speak. We can speak as a group. And the questions that, I have some questions that I would like us to sort of consider as part of this experience that we can talk about. So the first would be, what about the place or the memory that you engaged with is special to you? What really stands out for you? What details? And again, you're welcome to either use the chat or engage just in conversation with the larger room. anything that especially stood out for you in the memory.
For me, it was the amazement of sunrise and sunset, especially with the dark and light, the magenta and the gray of the clouds.
The color. Thank you. Anybody else aware of anything that was especially striking for you?
I had more than one place to go to, and that disturbed me at first. And I thought, no, that's fine. Just go from place to place wherever your mind wanders.
Wonderful. So Mary is, houseboats and lakes, night skies.
I used to spend a lot of time at the beach, and there was always something really magical for me about that liminal space that's where the sun touches the ocean and the sky and the ocean touch off in such a distance that my imagination just kind of goes wild. And especially in another liminal space of time, when the sun is just rising or just setting, there's that in-between place. It's very special.
Beautiful. So as you kind of engage with these memories and what stands out to you, how does this help you feel connected to the work of creation care? Is there anything about these memories that especially draws you or inspires you or connects you to the work of creation care?
It seems to me that, can you hear me?
Yeah.
It seems to me that whenever I look over large bodies of water, I become absorbed in that atmosphere. And that's a sense of awe and a sense of disappearing from this earth and getting into a spiritual segment of my life. So water in all forms becomes extremely sacred to me.
So moving you from that place to a place of spiritual connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm seeing some resonance with that in the chat. But, moving, thinking, and being inspired for the next generation, to be able to partake in that as much as we are, for protection.
I think of how lucky I am to have places that I can remember and be part of. And then there are many people who don't have that at all. They are in inner city or in situations where they don't have options of getting out in beautiful places. So it makes me want to share that, and so that we, it's hard to take care of something if you don't have any experience with it.
Absolutely. So it helps to connect you with others who don't have that opportunity, that experience.
And I'm privileged.
Yeah.
I think a sense of regret comes in a little bit, that we live in a culture that values busyness, and therefore there aren't the spaces to enjoy a sense of awe or encounter a situation where you're awestruck.
Right. So having that opportunity to be in connection with that, to stop the busyness and be involved. So I'm going to ask Scott if you would if you could just move us to the next screen, Scott, to the listening to your community.
There's actually a couple more parts that I'll have before we get to that, if that's all right.
Oh, sure. That's
there's
fine.
So we'll share. Again, thank you for sharing that. And when pretty much every place that I've been, whether I'm preaching or teaching or in connection, when we have those kinds of conversations about a time when people have felt God's presence or awe or mystery or terror in nature, we tend to find common ground and a sense of connection, not only to our own experience, our own memories, but to one another. And so I'm grateful that you are able to pinpoint some moments that were powerful for you, and that you're able to hear each other's stories, because that's part of who we are as listeners to the sacred. So I'm grateful for that. Part of what we are seeing in the world is this sense of challenge. I'm going to actually go back so you don't have to read that real quick. And around climate change and creation care destruction and oppression and a variety of challenges that are facing the planet right now. And many organizations are doing a lot of things about it, whether it's mitigating the challenges, which is trying to stop the challenges from happening. So those are stopping actions as mitigation. Adaptation is another way, like planting trees in a particular ecosystem that's now warmer because of climate change. That's an adaptation. And raising the docks at military bases and on the ocean sides are adaptation. People migrating from place to place is an adaptation. And so there's adaptation that's happening, mitigation that's happening, and then there's also other ways of engaging it. And faith communities are doing mitigation and they're doing adaptation, but they also have another role to play. Gus Speth, who's a climate scientist, says, "I used to think that the top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. I thought that 30 years of good science could address these problems, but I was wrong. The top environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. And to deal with these, we need a cultural and spiritual transformation, and we scientists don't know how to do that." Who knows how to do cultural and spiritual transformation? At our best, faith communities. That's on us as people of faith. Faith communities at our best, and this is inclusive of many kinds of faiths and also communities of conscience or groups of people that are thinking beyond themselves. What I've seen when faith communities are coming together, that they think generationally, they think about how they might engage in this work, not only passing on their own faith and their own norms to future generations, but how they're going to pass on an earth that's worth living on, and the kind of love they want to express that generationally. A second is that the faith communities at their best hold stories of resilience and hope in their scriptures and in their own communities. They recognize that brokenness and pain is not the end of the story. That over the long haul, these stories of resilience and hope have pervaded our existence together. Faith communities at our best know how to do relationships, whether we stay together all the time or whether we agree. That is definitely not true in the faith communities that I've been a part of, whether it's a carpet color fight or whether there should be styrofoam or regular cups in the fellowship hour. Faith communities do fight, but they also know how to be in relationship over the long haul. And that is a fading resource that I think we need to really tap into, especially in a time when we're so divided. love each other even in the midst of disagreement. And the fourth is that faith communities at their best contain an element of holy creativity or prophetic imagination. That there's this sense that there is something that we cannot see, this sense of an imagined future that is beautiful and just and right, like the beloved community. And that kind of imagination is also diminished, and we're malnourished, malnourished in our sense of imagination at our best. And faith communities still contain some of that. And so that's why we're doing this workshop. I will say that part of our work today is to explore how both we can be contemplative and we can use these discernment practices and act. And Judith, who you just heard play the cello, she would be a self-described type A personality, super active, super busy. And she spent some time after she recognized the climate change challenge in solitude and in Sabbath. And in the midst of that, she had an epiphany that she wanted to engage in climate action, that wanted to come out of her as a primary way of being in the world. She was already a professional therapist and a cellist. And instead of seeking, how do I get a sustainability degree, or how do I go to permaculture school, or how do I begin building solar panels, she instead chose to do what was right in her hands, which was to play the cello. And so she listened deeply, and then she acted quickly with what she already had access to. The resources, the wisdom, the gifts, the passion that was already available to her. And that's what we see faith communities doing all over Western North Carolina and beyond. Our goals for our time is to lean into the wisdom, the space, discernment, contemplation, and deep listening of your own family, your own household, and your faith community. And then also connect to the urgency of compassionate, intentional action with your own particular gifts, passions, resources, relationships, and skills. So we hold both this kind of slow, deep listening alongside the urgency of the time, which is we are way behind schedule as far as addressing climate change. And yet we want to be intentional and wise and compassionate. And so we're trying to marry those two things in this workshop. So here we are. We're going to do this. We have about 36 minutes left together. And we're going to start off by listening to your particular context. And Martha's going to take you through a few exercises and invite you to just write down some observations. If you don't have a faith community in mind, you just might think about your neighborhood or your family or your household. It would apply to all those things. And then after that, we're going to begin to look at the toolkit that we've created, the guide, and invite you to step more deeply into how you might act. And then we'll guide you through how your congregation might step into that more fully. So Martha, take it away.
Thank you, Scott. So as Scott mentioned, if you have a pen or pencil and some paper, this is a good time to have that in front of you. And we can move into this practice. This is listening to your community. It's sort of is engaging the kind of deeper active listening and connecting that Scott was talking about. It's designed to kind of help us to locate where we are today in community as we move forward with doing this work and thinking about how to bring this work out to others. So this quadrant it's kind of modeled after a model that's used in organizations called SWOT, which helps to identify what the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats are within organizations as they work to make change. So it's modified for us to help us to think about what the context is in which we are located as we think about how to move forward with creation care work. And just for your reference, you can download copies of this particular template off of the CCA website. So we're asking you to, if you look at these 4 quadrants, we're asking you to consider where you are in 4 areas, in areas of strengths that are unique to you, in resources, in your location, and in this moment in time. And just to sort of help to ground you in thinking about community can be different for each one of you. It can be your church, it can be your faith community, your neighborhood, your school, your workplace, your family. So if you could just think for a moment kind of what the context is for you of your community, what that is, and maybe just make a note of that. And in doing this practice yourselves, it's going to also help you to kind of have the experience of it, so that when you're doing this work in a larger group in whatever your community is, you can be doing that from a place of having had this experience yourself. So if we go through to the first quadrant of your unique strengths, we would ask you just to think about what are you known for in your community? What are the strengths that you bring to your community? What are your particular skills, your passions? Is there a particular position that you have in the community that you have in your mind? And just take a moment to note what some of those might be. And then as you move to the second quadrant of the resources, as you think about your community and you and your community, what are the resources that are available to you at this time? Who are the people that are part of your community, and do they have particular gifts in leadership or in what they bring to the community? Are there lands that are part of your community? Are there buildings that you have, or finances that are available to you? Are there people who bring, who volunteer and bring their time to your community? Perspectives. Are there people who come to mind who have particular places of relationship within your community? So if you just think about those types of sort of comprehensive resources. And then if you can move down to the lower left part of the quadrant, and when we think about location, where are you physically located when you think of the community that you're part of, or that you would want to be engaging in this work? Where are you located? What is the area like? What is the neighborhood like? Where in the county are you? What are you in proximity of? And as you think about that location, what are you aware of that are the needs of that location, or the things that are especially that stand out about that location, that are important, or culturally relevant? Are you in a watershed area? Who's your congressional district? Do you know who your Congress people are? Where do the people in your community, where are they located physically? And then as you sort of, bring these thoughts together in this fourth quadrant, which is called the Kairos moment. Kairos comes from the Greek, and there are two Greek terms for time. One is chronos and one is kairos. Chronos is more about chronological time. Kairos is really more about the place and time, this moment in time, and the opportunity, or the right critical opportunity of this moment. So if we're looking at this moment, where do you feel, what do you feel, or how do you feel you're being called in community in this moment in time in your community? Are there things that are happening in this moment in your community that are especially inspiring you or drawing you to this work? Are you aware of any spirituality that's emerging at this time that's especially important? Are you feeling called to respond to a moment in time in this world, in the larger community that your community could be responding to? So what is this Kairos moment for you as you connect with this larger work with your community? And how is this all working together as you kind of think about these strengths, these resources, and where you're located in this moment in time? How is this all moving you to be engaging with this work of creation care, both as an individual and also as a larger group? And so we can open up, I'd like to open up the room for discussion, anything that is especially significant to you in this practice as you're thinking about these different areas and sort of where you are in this moment. If you'd like to engage in some discussion about that, anything that is especially, that you're especially aware of as we think about this.
So I'm Maureen, and I'm a member of Jubilee Community. And we are right in town, so we don't have gardens and those sorts of things. But as Martha was talking, I was thinking, we are inner city. We can relate to the city government. What is the city government doing right now about climate? And there are some things. And then I went to nationally, and, there are reclamations happening of protections. And how do we as a community support these things? And I'm looking to those outside sources, because we had an Earth Team meeting this week, and we were like, what are we doing? We can't get people out and about and, the actual engagement physically. So these are my thoughts, how now there are ripe things that we can pick and chew on at Jubilee.
Skylar Darstein, in the case of my faith community, my church, we are located on a hill. And like all churches, we have a big old parking lot. And it's well known that runoff when it rains is a big problem. And I've often thought about, okay, what do we do to address that? Is that something that's addressable? It seems like you'd be eating an elephant, but there's, do you build water gardens or cisterns, or what do you do to prevent runoff from our property? I've not ever seen anybody address that environmentally.
Thank you. So yeah, absolutely. These are the kinds of thoughts that this process starts to really stir up in us and help us as we begin to think, about moving forward. And so, as sort of a starting point, it helps to propel you forward. So thank you everybody for engaging with this, and I'm going to return it to Scott to continue moving us forward. Thank you.
So part of this is listening deeply to who you are and where you are in the world. And then the next step is, so as you're prayerfully doing that, and that exercise that you just did in about 5 or 10 minutes could take 6 months for a session or a board or an organization to really do a deep dive of where are we, who are we, and probably many of you have already experienced something like that in a strategic planning or some sort of visioning, but this is particularly done in a way to try to engage how we might care for the earth. And one of the reasons why this whole workshop has come about was I was at a Wild Goose Festival sharing this document that we're sharing, and the toolkit or the guide. And as I was passing it out, a Presbyterian woman was beginning to share her story of creation care at her church, and she talked about how she was recycling and how for the last year and a half they were doing recycling. This is pre-COVID. And she had a blue trash can for the recycling, and she had a brown trash can for the regular trash. And after church, during fellowship hour, she had signs available with pictures of what you're supposed to put in each one. They did bulletin inserts. The priest or pastor spoke about where and how to recycle. They did newsletter articles. She did all the PR she could. And every Sunday she was picking out trash from the recycling and putting recycling in from the trash every Sunday. And she was getting more and more angry as she was describing this moment. And it was clear to me that her congregation wasn't that interested in recycling, but this woman was very interested in recycling. And I recognized that I was about to hand her a piece of paper that had a list of a lot of things that probably her church would not care about, and how defeating that might be. And so we adjusted it from like a list of things to do to where can you start? Where is the Spirit of God, or where is the personality of your congregation already at work? And so that's what you're listening for, is like, where is there already momentum, and how do you start there? And like, whether it's children's ministries, or whether it's music, or maybe it is recycling, or maybe it is justice, environmental justice. But wherever you already have some momentum, start there, and then to trust that the Spirit will move the congregation beyond that. And that's how we've been forming this work ever since that Wild Goose moment. So let's see if I can find our document again and keep us going. So we created this guide. It's and I want you to look at these 6 ways that we think faith communities, and we're thinking about faith communities, but this could be for other communities as well. Spirituality and worship, buildings and grounds, education, fellowship and outreach, sustainability, advocacy, and finance. And within these 6, we have another 19 subcategories. And so I'm going to invite you with your pen and paper. And this is one of those places where it's going to be a lot easier in person. I would just hand this out to you and ask you to circle things, but invite you to look at 3 different, not the blue, but the white, 3 of those that are attractive to you, like things you're doing or that you'd like to learn more about doing, and write that down on your paper. Three things. This is personal or at your home. And now turn your attention to your faith community, your church, your neighborhood. What 3 things are they already doing? And I know that in the time of COVID, things have shifted, so this may be different. But what are they already doing, or what do you think might be an interest or an excitement from your faith community? And what are those top 3 things? And just jot those down. And as you're comfortable, I invite you to type in the chat just your congregation's 3. And it could be just your top 2, or it could be 1. But just your community. The one for personal is just kind of a warm up. But just so we can see, and if you want to unmute and just tell us your 3, that's okay too. But just to get a sense of this group of 23 of us, what's the diversity of kind of passions and excitement that we might see in our congregations? So good.
I'd like to share that I'm from Blowing Rock and from St. Mary of the Hills Episcopal Church, and we've been working on creation care for a long time, basically starting with recycling, which finally it's taken a long time because it's always, is this recyclable? Where do I put this? That kind of thing. But we invested in a very nice recycling container with 3 slots. And before COVID, that was really starting to work well. And one of the slots was compost. And that was a real challenge. I mean, trying to tell people that you don't put plastic in the compost, you just don't do that. So it's been an educational thing all along. And our priest says we're going to get a composting bin because I've been responsible for dealing with the compost, and my yard is full. I have nowhere else to bury the compost. So I'm trying to get the church more involved in that. But, and we're really working on becoming a 0 waste congregation.
That's great.
And to do that, we have a tour of homes every year, although we didn't this past year, we did it online. But our whole setup is 0 waste, and it generates conversation with people who are coming to enjoy the tour of homes. And then the other thing, I've been working on trying to get our congregation put solar panels on our church. That's a real challenge, but I'm going to keep pushing that. So we're doing a whole lot of things that way. But the thing that has changed a lot because of COVID, we have a book group that has been together for a while now. And at the moment, we are reading Pope Francis's encyclical on climate. And that has been a real eye opener for people in this book group. It's like scales dropping off your eyes and say, I didn't know that. And the question now is, what can we do? So I'm hoping they're ready to dig deeper and to think more about how we can make our church a model for the other churches in our community. And our town is very small. We have a lot of tourists, used to just be in the summer, but now it's year round, that come up for skiing and the leaves and all of that. So as a community, we're working just to preserve our town.
That's great.
Yeah, trying to
Thank you.
keep that as pristine as possible. We're right on the Linville Gorge. We're right off the Parkway, and it's just a beautiful area. And we want to
Yes.
keep it that way. So that's what we're working on.
Thank you. Yes, those are great examples of how faith communities have been working on this, and how we might be looking forward to doing more. You can read in the chat some of the other communities that have communities, what they have said: energy, environmental justice, cleaning up the local environment, adopting highways, solar panels, recycling, river cleanup, green energy park, recycling, composting, waste reduction. We heard zero waste, landscaping, a new playground that's sustainable, new worship models, and recycling, environmental justice, and working through COVID, environmental justice, educational campaign and book club, brainstorming, giving pollinator plants in the spring, and earth care during Sunday celebrations, and earth care sustainability team, and reconnection with nature. Just a lot of diversity of ideas. And that's part of what we're looking for, is to trust that the work's going to be getting done. We definitely have urgency, but we're excited about the ways that you all are doing this. So if you were in a faith community right now, you would then vote for those three things. Like, say you're all in your synagogue, like fellowship area, you would say, okay, what are the top three that you had? And you would kind of vote, and then that would sift out of those 19. I'm going to share the screen again. You'd be able to start to identify, okay, here are our top four that we think we might be interested in, or people have some energy around. And so if you narrow it from this 19 and then to top four, then you're getting somewhere. You might be able to begin to identify, where do we want to pour our resources, because we have a limited amount of resources and time and energy. And so that's that you want to measure that, plus what's the urgency of now. So those things that you were looking at before, well, recycling is great, but we really sense that justice is the urgency of now is around environmental justice, and we want to elevate that to our top pick. So moving through that is helpful. This is what the actual toolkit looks like. And I think I put it in the chat, but I will again, if it's not in there, because I have to cut and paste it. Maybe Martha, if you can find the toolkit on our website. But this is, as you see on the left-hand side of this top 6, like sustainability practices, spirituality and worship. And then along the right are the 19 different subcategories. You can see food waste, waste reduction, food, transportation, worship. And then moving from the top left, planting seeds in the blue, nurturing growth, and deepening roots. That's kind of like the basic level, or 101 is the planting seeds, all the way up to kind of the most experienced or wise, and the most resources are the deepening roots. And so this is a 2-page document. and it would allow you to begin to narrow that down. So you say you pick waste reduction, worship experiences, and children and youth, then you can begin to look at those specific areas where your congregation might find ways to engage in this work. This is a clip of our website. And if I am brave enough, maybe I'll just actually show you the website itself. Let me see if I can do this. It's very scary. All right, maybe I can do it, and then I'll just come out of this. So can you see this now? I'm on our website. So it has the PDF of that document I just showed you here. It has the tips for facilitating this workshop that you're experiencing, the listening to your community exercise worksheet here, and then the pathways worksheet, which is those 19 things that you would be circling those in the workshop. And then the slides, we can get those to you as well. But once you discover those top 4 things on this website here, like say waste reduction was one of your pieces, you can click on waste reduction, and it has planting seeds, nurturing growth, and deepening roots, and gives you a few tips on what that might look like. And then when you click on learn more, it gives you a whole page of resources. So that the first section of resources are just tips. Like here's some examples, here's some ideas that might be helpful for you. The second is general resources that are outside of these tips. So like national resources. The third is these are areas in Western North Carolina that we know are doing this particular kind of work. So Hard to Recycle, Asheville Greenworks is doing something around that, and there's a recycling guide and information in Asheville, but we're excited to share that outside of Buncombe County for sure. And then here are faith communities that we know are utilizing this strategy, and you can email, most of these emails are good, to ask questions and to figure out how your congregation might start in this kind of work. So that's for all of these different sections has those resources available to you to help your congregation go step by step in the work. So I'm going to go back to our slides here. So this is just describing that what I just shared with you. So within those, you can click on links within the resources. This would be around waste reduction and food. This is from Project Drawdown, a book that is amazing. And so the question would be, how might your community or you as an individual take that next step? And then if there are questions, we have about 5 more minutes, so just questions, and then we'll just kind of close with a poem. It's a lot at the very end there.
Scott, a question. How do we, and I might not use the correct words, drive this down for individual, personal, family use? At this point, my perspective, and it could be wrong, is we're focusing at church, it's the congregation. And I can see that would impact the lowest levels. But my background has always said, start at the lowest level and grow your plant up.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that we do trust that faith communities influence individuals, and that's kind of our particular focus. There are lots of groups that are doing individual actions. Eco Challenge is one of those. If you haven't discovered the Eco Challenges, they do amazing work around incentivizing like 21-day challenges for personal work. We've found that the sweet spot of transformation can happen in the faith community sized group. There's individual, like you can do mitigation, adaptation, and compassion at the individual level, at the faith community or like small group level, and then national and global level. We can't really impact the national and global level very quickly. and it's hard for one person to impact that kind of change. We can do a lot individually. We can do a lot to change our own personal behavior, but the impacts are limited to what we can do unless we have a lot of resources at our disposal. So what we found is like faith communities, and we believe that faith communities they are relatively more quickly able to change, even though they're slow. We know that faith communities are slow. They're still faster than a statewide policy or a national policy typically. And so that's kind of our sweet spot. That's who we work with normally. But we do trust that most of the things on the document that you're seeing, unless it's around worship or classes, can be transposed to individuals, whether it's gardening or clean energy, those sorts of things too. Other brief questions?
I wonder, I'm familiar with this being on the steering committee, but I'm not sure that there's on there. I think a big important thing is we've got some influential people in our church, and influence in policy with politicians is really important, I think. And I'm not sure that's on that.
There is a section for advocacy.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah. So there's the whole at the very bottom of the second page is advocacy and finance, and so it's looking at legislation, how to build relationships with policymakers and local officials, advocating, building relationships, and then using your vote and your money as an organization to influence policy. So that's the last one. That's in advocacy and policy, because that's a really important part of this, is that we can't do it just individuals. We have to have policies that are going to move us forward quickly, and utilizing the relationships that are in faith communities is such a vital part. Susan, you're right. Other thoughts or questions? All right, as we get,
I think
go ahead.
I've got one. Okay. We have across the street a college of young people, undergraduates, who are thirsty for a connection with them that helps them understand spirituality. Any suggestions on how to approach that through what we're doing here?
Well, it's harder with the Zoom dynamic, because I would say that with college and university people, food is always a helpful, for me anyway, that was a helpful guide, is to offer free meals and conversation. But I would say also maybe inviting someone from their College of Sustainability or their science departments to come and teach you all. Like inviting them to be your teachers would be one way. So you have access to not only the professors, but also students. And so inviting like professors or someone in the Department of Sustainability or Social Studies, or to come and share their wisdom with you is a way to kind of respect where they're coming from, because they've got a lot of great ideas. And then that through those relationships that you're building, there may be more of a collaborative opportunity to look at land use or using your space to support the work of learning intergenerationally. Those are just some quick ideas. And then when COVID's over, just throw some potlucks. I know people love home cooked food, and that's a good way to share intergenerationally some of the challenges. And I also would say that we're finding that people that are more courageous around social justice and the environment are finding that young people are attracted to that as well, that they want to talk about anti-racism work and climate change, and they're that a lot of times they're courageous to kind of explore that. And I think that would be an interesting piece maybe for you guys. But again, that's a unique concept or context that a lot of congregations don't have. And so leaning into that location and the potential relationships that you have, I think is the key part of it. We can't answer it for you exactly, but we're grateful that you have it. Any other last questions or comments? I wonder if you, as a way of closing, if you would just share one word of something that you're taking with you. It could be a word of gratitude or a word of blessing or a kind of like something that stood out for you that you want to carry forth, or whatever that might look like, as a way of moving us into our lunch break. Teamwork. Yep, you can chat it, or you can unmute and say it. And I'll repeat the ones in the chat in case you
Act.
say that again.
Act.
Act.
Connecting.
Connecting. Encouraged. Possibilities.
Common ground.
Common ground.
Community.
Community. Orientation for a meeting tomorrow. New and exciting ideas.
Hope.
Hope. Brainstorming.
Transformation.
Transformation. I'm grateful for each of you and for the works that your congregation and the ways that you're listening deeply. Susan says that there's an idea of inviting sustainability clubs of school to come and teach different congregations. And that's in high school too, I would say, because I know Asheville High School has a sustainability club. So grateful for you all and for the ways that you continue to listen in the midst of such a challenging time, and hope that you will be able to come back as you feel called to join our next workshops. And I'll just give you a hint of what they are. This afternoon, we have disaster preparedness, climate, and faith communities with Green Chalice and Week of Compassion. That's at 3 o'clock. And then also at 3 o'clock, Jackie Patterson, the Director of Environmental and Climate Justice Program of the NAACP, will be here as well. And those links, I'm going to go ahead and put those links in. Hopefully you'll be able to find them in your emails or whatever else, but I know how challenging it is to scroll through emails. So those are the two workshops coming up at 3. And then we'll do a similar rhythm of 10 to 12, 3 to 5 tomorrow. And we'll most likely be done before 5. Yeah, this is a tough choice. Jackie is an amazing presenter. We got to hear her at Lake Junaluska a few years ago. So I'm grateful for the Methodists bringing her in. Well, blessings to you all. And I will look forward to seeing you later.
Thank you.
Take care.
Goodbye, everyone. It was wonderful to see you all and to meet you.
Bye, Martha. Thank you.
Did you have a poem you were going to share?
Scott?
I think you may have signed off.
Oh, okay. So is there another link I'm supposed to click for lunchtime on that, on those links?
On the did you receive an overview of everything for today and tomorrow? There are specific links with each workshop. So yeah, if you
So
just
there's one for lunchtime?
the lunchtime, yeah.
There's a noon meditation
Right.
that you can use that's designated for today, and it's on the agenda on the website.
Okay, otherwise we just come back at 2, is it?
I think it's 3.
Oh, we're not back for 3 hours?
Yeah. I believe
Okay,
the next workshops begin at 3, and then there is a meditation that you can engage with in between.
okay. All right, thanks. See you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Ooh, now this is being recorded.
Oh,
Or maybe it's just still your recording and I'm seeing that now, Martha.
I need to stop it.